It's Wolf and Luke Lapinski here with you. Scott Williams is in for Wolf today. Scott, we promised you pre-show meeting we weren't going to make you settle the LeBron versus Jordan debate because I'm sure you've been asked this a lot. But maybe there is another player or two, maybe, I don't know, that has played on an NBA team with Michael Jordan.
There's four of us.
Oh, there's four. Okay.
Yeah, I've answered this one a couple hundred times.
I guess I can just ask you.
And someone actually told me that there's only been four players that have ever played with both Michael Jordan, LeBron James. And I use it as a trivia question sometimes to stump all the super fans in bars. Give me a free beer.
Yeah.
I give them a time limit. So maybe I'll give the viewers a time limit to see if they can come up with the answers till the end by the 2 o'clock hour.
Yeah, I can't think of who the other three would be. But either way, you're in a very select group. You won 3 titles with Jordan, so I know obviously you that's a much deeper experience. You were on his team for a long time. And you played 1 year with LeBron, right? I want to say
he was in his second year in Cleveland, 04-05. So wasn't quite into his prime yet. Already doing big things, but not in his prime.
Yeah. So I'm not. I mean, if you have strong feelings one way or the other of who was better, then by all means lay them on me. But I'm almost more interested in just how they are competitively, how they get ready for game, how they carry themselves during games, whatever. You're talking about the 2 best players in NBA history. Are they, or certainly, LeBron's right up there. Do you see it? Did you see a lot of similarities between them? Like, could you just almost kind of tell, okay, this guy's, because LeBron came in with more hype than Jordan.
Oh, yeah.
Probably
way more hype. Obviously, number one pick, biggest thing since, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar probably to enter the NBA. I mean, remember, Michael wasn't even the first draft pick in that class. I think he went third to Chicago. But LeBron was I guess for all my 15 years in the league, and that maybe is my 15th and last when I played with him, with all the superstars that I had played with, Nash, Nowitzki, Allen Iverson, I'm talking about Tony Kukoc, all the Hall of Famers that I had played with since the time that I had played with with Michael. LeBron was the guy that was closest and showing me from day one in training camp that this kid's got that special it factor that you saw in Michael Jordan. So that was quite amazing to me. And he was still 19 years old at that time. I remember early in training camp and taking a charge as he drove down the lane thinking, oh no, if we both went to the ground, I hope I didn't, just injured the franchise player. And he popped right up and jogged down the floor. And I had those stars flash into my eyes. All my thoughts quickly changed to, I hope he didn't hurt me at 36 years old. Forget about the 19-year-old.
Scott is not small. What are you, 6'10"?
6'10". I was probably about 265. I was a little chubby going into training camp my last year in the league. And this kid was probably 245, 250, solid as marble. So, I took the brunt of that collision. But the thing that I go back to time and time again to answer this debate on who's better, Michael or LeBron, the thing I will say, they're both competitors and fiercely competitive and work on their bodies, always trying to improve the game. The difference to me is Michael had a killer instinct that LeBron just does not have to the level in which Michael has. He wanted to go out there on a nightly basis, and whatever the star was on that squad that we faced up against, he wanted that guy to know when he drove home away from the arena, they had no chance of ever beating him. He wouldn't even dream in his sleep that he could beat Michael Jordan. That's how badly he wanted to embarrass him in front of his friends, his family, and the fans in that arena where we were at. And LeBron just wants to win. He doesn't have that extra gear of robbing another superstar, maybe even a potential Hall of Famer, ability to take that confidence away from him that he could ever beat him.
Yeah.
And I saw that time and time again, whatever series we were in, whether it was, against the Knicks and Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley here with the Phoenix Suns. He wanted those guys to know that they could never beat him, and that's one of the reasons that gave him an advantage in why he was so successful in every NBA Finals that he was ever in.
That cut from The Last Dance that became, a meme and a GIF and everything, where he's like, "Oh, and I took that personally." It sounds like he was just that way all the time.
All the time.
That just happened to be the one cut that made that documentary, basically.
Yeah, not to talk about my book Through the Fire, but I do write a little bit about what his competitive level was like. And I played with the dude prior to him winning a championship. What the competitive level it was that he placed on himself and the teammates, and even to the coaching staff to a degree to be ready to prepare and to play every time that you stepped on that floor, in every drill that you did, locked in film sessions, in the weight room, the conditioning. That was a different level cat than they had in The Last Dance, where he was letting Dennis Rodman run off to Vegas with Carmen Electra. Yeah. That dude that I played with prior to winning the championship would not have tolerated that whatsoever. I think after he had a couple rings on his fingers, he thought, well, maybe this guy's got opportunity for me to get back to the NBA Finals. Let's see how this plays out. But the dude that I played with was a smoldering beast in everything that we did.
That's an interesting thought, because everybody now does just look at Jordan and they're like, oh, yeah, 6 rings, and he probably could have had a couple more if he had played those 2 years in the middle. But
100%.
That perspective that you just gave of, like, imagine Michael Jordan when he didn't have a ring yet, and he feels like whoever took it from him. Like, I can't even imagine what that guy would have been like. It was the
hardest thing that I ever did in my entire life was to survive that training camp. And I played with a chip on my shoulder because I was undrafted, but the amount of work that we put in to prepare for that season to try to get past the Pistons, to have the best record in the Eastern Conference, is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life.
And that was, I know it wasn't all Jordan, but that was mostly driven by Jordan.
In my opinion, it was all
really?
Jordan. Scottie Pippen wasn't the player that he became. John Paxson, some of those other guys were leaders off the court, but it was Michael Jordan on the court and that fueled and drove that team.
The reason the LeBron stuff's coming up, the ESPYs last night, and maybe I just wasn't taking this seriously, and he's not retiring. I didn't realize going into that last night people were thinking LeBron might retire, but he made it pretty clear that he isn't.
I said I wasn't sure if I was going to. When the season ended, I said I wasn't sure if I was going to keep playing. And I know a lot of experts told you guys what I said, but I'm here now speaking for myself. In that moment, I'm asking myself if I can still play without cheating the game. Can I give everything to the game still? Truth is, I've been asking myself this question at the end of the season for a couple years now. I just never openly talked about it. I don't care how many more points I score or what I can or cannot do on the floor. The real question for me is, can I play without cheating this game? The day I can't give the game everything on the floor is the day I'll be done. Lucky for you guys, that day is not today.
Reminds me a little bit of that decision, right? When he was like, I'm taking my talents to South Beach, right? Everyone was like, well, where's he going to go play, right? So, Ron, right, 20 years in the NBA, coming up on year 21. I mean, let's look what he's done the last couple of years. He's 38 years old. He'll be 39 at the end of the year, December 31st. He averaged 28.9, so a tick under 29 points a game last year, 8 rebounds, and 6.5 assists, right? So he's pretty much done that the last 2 years. 30 points a year ago, 2 years ago, and you don't see any drop-off in his game. The only thing that you possibly say is, how often is he on the floor? He's only averaged 55 games over the last 2 years, right? So maybe that's this new era of load management, or some of it is injuries. He's starting to creep up to close to 40. But from his efficiency when he's on the floor in those 55 games, I think he's still getting it done.
Yeah, the impressive thing to me about LeBron has always been that he came into the league with such hype, and he's always had those high expectations, and for the most part, he's always lived up to them. Whether you like that he moved around, whether you like that he's on the Lakers now or not, whether you think Jordan's better, whatever, there's just the fact that it's one of the most underrated difficult things to do, really even beyond sports, just in life. If people have ridiculously high expectations for you and you continuously hit them, that to me has probably been the most impressive thing about his career, which, as you just heard him say right there, is going to continue. While we're still on this guy, I just want to ask you this, and it doesn't even have to be LeBron or Jordan, because you've played against a lot of great players too, and you've played with a lot of other great players. Devin Booker in particular, when you see how this guy is on and off the court and the way he attacks the game, does it remind you of any, like, do you see characteristics that you saw in any of the all-time greats?
Well, Booker's playoff run this year was absolutely amazing. And he did things that I didn't know that he was even capable of. He was first came into the league, he was a little skinnier. I wasn't 100% bought in on what the player he was going to be. He's made a believer out of me the last 3 seasons, especially in the playoffs. Do I see a similarity to a Michael Jordan or LeBron James? Yes, at times, but I see more similarities to Kobe Bryant. His ability to be able to do what he wants to offensively is I guess second to maybe what Kobe Bryant did on the floor. And at times last year during the playoffs, there wasn't anybody that you could put on that could stop him. Shot a high percentage from the field, did it against the double team, he did it in transition, he did it from the arc, he did it slashing in amongst the bigs. Those are the types of things that Kobe Bryant was able to do on the offensive end that I haven't seen in a long time from a player.
That's not a bad player to be compared to, especially given his history with Kobe Bryant when he first got into the league, too.